Don't tell them. Okay, so the Conway, being a much smaller boat, already had some steam. Decided to lift its anchor and slowly made its way over to the road town. The Rhone, on the other hand, was a bit of a behemoth. It actually took, from the boilers being cold, it took up to 3 days to fire up all of the boilers and get them up to operating temperatures. So of course, as she'd been refueling, she wasn't really in a state to put to sea. So they fired up the boilers that they could as quickly as they could, but she did take a bit longer to actually get going. I think, Captain Hammock, we've done with you temporarily. I think if you'd like to make your way over to
around behind.
Road Town.
Save me a spot at Road Town.
Captain Willie was starting to get concerned that the barometer had dropped very, very low. The wind and the waves were starting to pick up. So he made his best attempts at lifting his anchor. So let's have a little bit of wind and waves. Thank God for that. They haven't all gone to sleep. So anyway, Captain Willie and the Rhone, they struggled to lift their anchor. In the end, they really couldn't. It was caught on something. No one really knows why. But the Rhone couldn't lift her anchor. They don't know if her anchor gear failed or if it got tangled on a rock or whatever. But they couldn't lift it in the conditions that they had. So they just cut the chain and left it. And the Rhone anchor and chain is still on the seabed over at Peter Island. But this obviously posed Captain Willie with a real problem. His first plan of going over to Road Town and anchoring was now not really an option because he'd just thrown away his best anchor and ground tackle. And it's actually the chain that's a lot more important with these things. The weight of the chain is what actually anchors the boat. So he decided to take the next best option, which on a big ocean-going ship that had already been through some very bad storms previously, his next best option was to head out to open sea. Obviously, it's difficult to sink if you don't hit anything. So that's what he decided to do. Captain Willie decided to head south. That way. Sweet. So he came. So he came out of Peter Island, started making his way just along the channel a little bit to go between the gap between Peter Island and Salt Island. At just about this time, all the wind and waves died down. Oh, good God! Died down. What's actually happening was the eye of the hurricane was moving over. So he was in a hurricane situation. Now he was in dire straits. His heading south was not going to work, but he had no other options. He just had to make way for the sea, open sea, as quickly as he could. Unfortunately, he didn't have an awful lot of time to do this. The wind and the waves started to pick up again. As it moved.
Rain picked up.
I like children's assistant. Oh, no! Before it picked up too badly, he sent the instructions to one of his seamen, Pete, to lash all the guests to their bunks.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't want to lash.
He was not into sadomasochism.
Lash. Whip black and lash.
It was considered far and away the safest thing to do at the time. The consequences of breaking an arm or a leg at sea invariably meant that you had to have your arm or leg amputated.
Voluntarily tying yourself?
Unbelievably.
I know it's not home.
Because of gangrene and stuff. So another expression of all of this, and that's the good night, sleep tight, was when people were actually tied into their bunks. And apparently that's the truth. So, now, as poor Captain Willie, without any ground tackle, or very little ground tackle left on the boat, with all his passengers tied safely in, makes a desperate effort to strike for the open sea, going through the Peter Island, Salt Island Passage. Well, it's called the Salt Island Passage, mainly because you have to go much closer to Salt Island than Peter Island. There's actually a rock a third of the way off of Peter Island called Blonde Rock. It's about 18 feet deep. And he had to go round that. It was too dangerous, too close to his draft for him to go over it. So he knew he had to come closer to Salt Island than Peace Island.
The GPS wasn't working?
GPS wasn't working, no. Well, no, he had the head unit, but of course no one had got to put the satellites up. So he switched it on and desperately hoped for something to happen. No, the little triangle and the question mark stayed there forever.
1 miles away.
Yeah, about 0.2 miles away from where he actually was. Yeah. So anyway, as the wind and the waves started to pick up again, poor Captain Willie was stood on his bridge drinking his tea with his silver spoon. He's run away again.
Pinky's out.
Pinky's out, yeah, you're British.
Cheerio.
Cheerio. Realising that the situation was starting to get very dire, the wind and the waves were really picking up. The wind now was blowing him ever closer to Salt Island. The situation really was becoming rather desperate. So he resorted to what all captains do at the time.
Drinking.
Drink. He took his bottle of rum. He went out onto the bridge. It's not the bridge.
You're going way.
Closest.
You see where you're going.
Well,
Pretend we're going back.
right.
There you go.
The wind and the waves were picking up. He was getting ever closer and closer to Salt Island. He was he was taking barometer readings and wind direction readings past him. Ever the professional Captain Willie. Unfortunately, a huge wave came along.
Fabulous.
Alright, what's up with tonight?
With hail.
Yeah, with that, it was a very, very unseasonably cold hurricane.
If it went south, was stuck again.
Yeah. Poor Captain Willie was washed overboard by this huge wave.
Should have saw that coming.
Well, if you'd been watching that way, you would have done. Poor Captain Willie was the first fatality of the loss of the Rhone. He was washed overboard at that stage. His body was never found. Goodbye, Captain Willie.
Bye.
Thank you for your efforts. We do, however, we do, however, still have Captain Willie's spoon, which you guys will be showing. Oh God, he has gone. and his rum bottle. And his bottle of rum. So those two are still down there. Actually, the rum bottle was put there about 15 years ago by Duncan. That might be a lie.